quick disclaimer before I get into the video. There was a massive tire update right after I made this video, so you may have already seen part of this. It is going to be my full settings video, but I'm going to use the old video for the controller setup and settings part of it, and then I'm going to have a new recording for the bike setup as well as me riding around, so I can kind of demonstrate things off. So if the video is spliced together just a little weird, or you notice the quality for part of it's not up to par, that is the reason why. But let's go ahead and get into the old part of the video. Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a hopefully final setting/setup video as far as my setup in MX bikes goes. As far as the settings I use, my controller setup and everything. I've done a couple before, but I've constantly been kind of changing up my setup to where I think I finally found a good setup that I can stay with for a while. Maybe minor changes here and there, but nothing crazy. Again, I'm sorry for the delay in uploads. I've been moving, haven't had stuff set up, and it's a little harder to record videos now, but I'm gonna still try to keep going for it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get right into the settings so we can knock these out. So I should have the controller up on the screen here. So lean, I got that on the left stick, pretty normal. Right trigger for throttle, and then brake here, left trigger. Now one thing you'll notice, I do have both the brakes activated. I have combined brakes on, I'll get to that in a minute. Rear brake I have to right bumper, and then clutch I have left bumper. Don't use the clutch a whole lot, mainly for like starts, but that's about it. Now this is the biggest change from all my other videos. I finally put all the rider leaning on the right stick here, so from back right stick, left right, also on the right stick here. So yeah, that is the biggest change. I finally switched over to using both sticks, whereas before I tried to get away with just using one. But definitely this is the way to go. It just takes a minute to get used to, but once you do, it's awesome. Now direct lean, I used to have this a lot lower, maybe like 25, 30. I've since cranked it up to 50, and that mainly comes to Supercross. I just felt like I wasn't really standing back up fast enough out of corners, so I'd kind of hit a rhythm section kind of angled. It just wasn't really working out, so I played around a bit with that and have bumped it up to about 50. This is maybe one of the minor changes I'll still mess with, but it's kind of preference. Now again, I do now have combined brakes on. It just helps with braking power. Again, came down to Supercross. Definitely something I kind of struggled with, so I do have that on, but obviously I still have right bumper as the rear brake, so I can still brake tap, but coming into corners and stuff I can have just a little more braking, and I do have the rear brake only going to about half when I pull in the brake. So, and then all this advanced setting stuff, I'm pretty sure, I'll click through it real quick so you can pause it just to see, but I'm pretty sure all this is default. I could be wrong, but I don't really remember changing much of this. So that's most of the controller setup. Going on to the second input tab here. So I have my shift up as square or X as it shows. Yeah, that just works for me. I know some people kind of switch these, but yeah, input I have as X or A, again using the PlayStation controller, but so I have those as my shifting. Push bike, D-pad up and down, I feel like that's pretty normal. Another big change from my last video is I used to do circle as my sit button. I've since switched that to clicking the right stick down, so now I could do all the rider stuff, leaning and sitting with the right stick. Definitely seems the way to go. I don't have it set to direct, so that just means I can toggle it, so I can click it once to sit down, click it again to stand up. Direct means if you want to sit down, you have to hold it in. I've tried it, and I can definitely see the benefit of it. I just can't get used to it. But again, I feel like that's one of those things that's kind of personal preference. Reset I have set as the back button. look back, I switched to circle, so I can still do that. Heading, which way you look, left or right, I have that set to the D-pad, left and right. Tear off, I have set to triangle, or Y as it says. Again, just I've always had it there, so I'm used to it. Raise arm is my start, so I can signal people. Then all this is standard. We'll go into graphics, doesn't matter too much, but this is usually about what I've run. Recently, I've been going with 3D grass off and lowering some of the stuff just so I can get as many frames as possible. Computer's a little old at this point, rocking a 1080 Ti, so I can definitely feel it chugging in online races, but yeah, this doesn't matter. This just depends on your setup. But I will turn on 3D grass sometimes if it's like a super pretty track and I'm the only one on it. We'll go to miscellaneous. Yeah, nothing here too interesting. I'm in the US, so you know, whatever. Going on to simulation tab here, I've got my field of view. I used to always run at 110, which is the highest, but they've since updated it to where you can go to 130, I believe, but I have it set to 115. So just a touch higher. Tilt and pitch 45 and 60. It just looks good to me. I feel comfortable with that as I use first person, so this just looks good in first person to me. I do have show HUD and show rider stand on, and then as far as riding aids, I do have shift help, so that just means you don't have to let go of the throttle when you're shifting. It'll do it automatically. That helps a lot. I do have automatic clutch on. Like I said, I don't really use the clutch. I have brake help on, as well as the automatic tires change. But other than that, yeah, everything else is off. So those are my settings. All right, back to the updated recording. We've went ahead, loaded into the map here. So I'm going to go through my bike setup. Again, the whole reason I'm doing this, re-recording this, is because of the new tire update. If you want to see some videos that go more in depth on just the topic of the tires, I know like Lynn's has a good one, so I recommend checking out those, but I will talk about these. So but I'm going to load up the default setting just because you'll see that this is very close to stock. Here I messed with the fuel a little bit, but this is just going to depend on your race length. Basically, you want the lowest amount of fuel to make it through your race to save a little bit of weight, so that you can kind of mess with. Then going on to the tires here, if you have the updated tire pack, which you should, there are a few different options you can pick from, and this is a fantastic update. I'm so glad this came around. But if you go with just the mid soft tire, this is back to the like Boboso stock tire. I still do think it's been changed a little bit with this pack because it does feel a lot better. But then you got a couple different options here. But one thing to note is these tires here, if they're not just the basic mid soft ones, they only really work on soft soil types. So like this track, Fox Raceway, is one. I believe what is it, the Czech Republic, that track is another one. But yeah, if you use this on like sand tracks or stuff like that, you're actually not going to have good grip, so you'll want to change it back to the mid soft. So for example, like all this 22 Supercross tracks, you'll want to switch back to the mid soft. But anyway, so I like to go 90-90 on the front. I feel like that's good. I'd use it both 250 and 450. Again, the numbers kind of determine like the width and whatnot. So yeah, I liked 90-90 on the front for the 250 and the 450. Then here, 450, I always go 120 for sure. You want the most traction in the rear. And then 110 is what I use for the 250, because with this one, you don't want a tire that's like a little too big because you kind of lose agility. So I feel like this middle of the road seems pretty good. Now you'll notice there's a lot more PSI to play with than before. I've cranked the front up a little higher. That's just so there's not like too much front end grip. It sounds kind of weird, but with some of the tracks and like the deep ruts, like on this one, sometimes the front tire will kind of claw its way out of a rut a little too easily. So I kind of upped that. And then rear, I kind of brought down the PSI just a smidge. That way I would have have more rear end traction. Excuse me. And as you can see, everything here is default. Suspension is all default. And for outdoors, I feel like this is perfect. For some supercross tracks, you might want to tweak this and stiffen it up, just to get a little more pop in some of the rhythm sections and whatnot. Personally, I don't know a whole lot about suspension, so I'm not going to speak a bit, like a lot on that. But I have messed around with it a little bit here and there for supercross. Going on to drivetrain, I like the standard gearing for the Honda 250, so I've kept that all stock, but again, personal preference. And then everything else here is stock except for the swing arm length. Now this one, I don't know a whole lot of what it does, and I don't feel like I feel a whole lot of difference between changing it from 1 to 2, but here I have it set to 2. I feel like there's maybe a little more stability, but this is something that I would just test, try both 1 or 2, just try it out, see kind of what you like, and it may even differ from track to track, but the mapping I have set to aggressive. If it's a 450, usually I just keep that standard, but that is all for the bike setup. Alright, onto the track now so I can ride around, and you can see my inputs as I'm riding, kind of see how I utilize the controller. I do have just a normal controller grip, don't use like a claw grip or anything like that, so yeah, just so you can get a picture of how my hands are, nothing too crazy, but yeah, I just want you to be able to see kind of how I maneuver the bike around, kind of how I utilize rider lean. Again, I'm not like a pro or anything, so just what I've learned so far. I'm at probably about maybe like 600 to 700 hours in this game. Just on Steam, I'm at like 550-ish, but I have been playing it for, well, before it was on Steam, I think like beta 3 or 4 maybe, so. But yeah, a couple tips, I guess, that I can think of off the top of my head is, ooh, we almost lost the rear. Landing back end first like that and then leaning forward is a really good way to absorb heavy impacts. So if you're like landing flat or something, or like how I was coming up really short on that uphill double there, yeah, that's definitely a good way to land. Because if you land like flat or something, you usually end up getting a lot of bouncing, and we definitely tucked the front in that corner there. Even with these new tire physics, obviously, you know, you can still slide out the rear, you can still tuck the front, but yeah, a lot more forgiving for sure, which I do just want to go on about how fantastic these tires are. Again, only select these tires if you're on soft soil. If not, like any of the old supercross tracks or whatnot, make sure you're on the mid-soft, but they still feel a lot better than how they were before. Yeah, on this track, on my last video that I did as far as like the overview goes, I believe I ran a 211, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. And then in testing with the new tire pack, I was able to run a 206. It was like a 206.0 something, so it was like almost a 205. So yeah, massive difference when it comes to the level of grip in this game. Like this section here was really easy to lose a bunch of traction and get all out of whack there. Like being able to like really kind of roll or wheelie those rollers there, it's super fun. Actually, like really clearing the double, and again, this uphill is night and day difference with the new traction as well. And I love being able to just kind of like shove it into ruts and just rail them now. It's so fun. Carries so much speed through the corners now. Alright, Perfect. And we'll go ahead and finish up this lap, and hopefully it was a good enough little session to where you could see kind of the controller inputs as I play. The little kind of weird scrub over that. I wonder what this lap will be. This is actually kind of a fast one. I don't know if I've crashed on this lap or not. Also, this triple is so much easier to clear now with the new physics. Yeah, so right there, I just ran a 206, and I wasn't even necessarily trying to go for a fast lap. I was just trying not to crash. But yeah, almost beat my fast lap right there, recording and talking as well. Like, it is so much better to ride with these tires. The consistency as well. Your consistency will go way up. I actually can like run several laps now without crashing, whereas before I feel like I'd always make just one little dumb mistake that would like cost the whole lap. But yeah, now you can actually kind of like save it or kind of back off and, I don't know, choose your lines a little better, I guess. But I hope you at least learned something for this video. If you have some questions, I'll try to answer them in the comments. But until the next one.